A rumor can move Washington in minutes. A document can move it in seconds. Right now, there's a viral claim circulating across social media, cable news, and political podcasts. Senate Republican leadership is breaking with Donald Trump. The story suggests that a private meeting triggered a sudden internal revolt, and that the numbers are already there to block key administration priorities. The problem is simple. Online, closed-door meeting instantly becomes confirmed coup. A single tweet becomes evidence. A repost becomes verification. And by the time anyone asks for proof, the story has already hardened into accepted reality. In real life, these situations are almost always messier. They're a mix of real signals, partial leaks, strategic positioning, and a tremendous amount of storytelling layered on top. The truth is usually quieter than the headline and slower than the outrage cycle. So today, we're doing this the brief desk way. No hype without receipts. We're going to separate what's confirmed from what's unconfirmed. We're going to show you exactly how these stories spread and why they spread so fast. And we're going to give you a concrete watch list, the exact things to track over the next 24 to 72 hours, because that's when these stories either collapse under scrutiny or turn into formal documented action. Here's the key tension you need to understand. Truth moves slow, but outrage moves fast. Social media rewards speed and certainty. Verification requires patience and humility. But if you actually want accountability, if you want to hold powerful people responsible for real actions, speed alone isn't enough. You need the paper trail. Before we argue about what any of this means, we have to lock down what's actually real. Let's start by defining the core claim, without repeating it as fact. The claim is that senior Senate Republican leaders have privately decided to oppose or limit a Trump-backed push. The claim further suggests that this opposition has reached, or is rapidly approaching, a number large enough to matter procedurally. In other words, enough votes to block, delay, or fundamentally reshape whatever the administration wants. That's the claim. Now let's establish the standard for what counts as confirmed. You should only treat something as confirmed if you can point to at least one of the following: a public letter with senator names attached. This means a PDF, an official release, a posting on a senator's verified website, or a document released to credentialed press. Public statements by named senators or leadership offices. This includes press releases, verified interviews, official social media posts from verified accounts, or on-camera statements. A legislative record. This means actions visible on congress.gov, bill text, amendments, procedural vote scheduling, recorded votes, or formal objections filed on the record. On the record reporting by top-tier outlets. This means reporting that explicitly cites named documents or multiple named officials, not anonymous sources alone, but sources whose claims can be cross-referenced. Now, here's what is typically unconfirmed in viral versions of this story. Exact vote counts presented as certainty. Claims like, "We're already past 18 votes," or "Leadership has the numbers," unless those claims come with names attached. Exact timestamps inside private meetings. Unless there's a recording or contemporaneous documentation, these details are reconstructed after the fact. Claimed leaked audio or leaked texts. If the audio or texts aren't publicly available to verify, they don't count as confirmation. A description of a leak is not the same as the leak itself. Claims about internal donor threats, private ultimatums, or who said what in the room. These make for great narratives, but they're almost impossible to verify independently. Our standard is simple. If the public record is incomplete, we say so. And if someone claims to have proof, the burden is equally simple. Show the document, show the recording, or show the on-the-record confirmation. Until then, it's a claim, not a fact. Now let's trace where this story started and how it grew into what you're seeing today. Here's the pattern you see again and again in Washington viral cycles. Understanding this pattern is the first step to not getting fooled by it. Step 1, a claim appears, framed as insider certainty. Leadership is done. The revolt is underway. The votes are already there. The language is designed to create urgency and bypass skepticism. Step 2, big accounts amplify it. Political influencers, partisan commentators, and engagement-optimized pages pick it up because it performs well. Certainty gets clicks. Nuance doesn't. Step 3, the claim starts getting treated like a public event, even though the public record still hasn't caught up. People begin discussing the revolt as if it's a confirmed development, not an unverified claim. Step 4. Cable news panels repeat it. Pundits offer analysis of the implications. And through sheer repetition, the claim becomes truth in the audience's mind, even if no one ever verified the original source. That's why the single most important question is always the same. What was the first verifiable source? Not the loudest account, not the best storyteller, not the post with the most engagement, the earliest checkable origin. Here's what you should look for immediately when evaluating any claim like this. Is there an original document, a draft letter, a congressional filing, something you can read with your own eyes? Is there an original recording, posted by a reputable outlet, not just described or summarized? Are there named senators on camera confirming it, not sources close to, actual humans with names attached to their words? Or is everything still sources say with no paper trail? Because here's the reality. A rumor becomes fact after about 10 reposts. But the truth is usually sitting quietly in one place, the record. And the record doesn't trend. Next, we need to understand the mechanism, how a revolt actually becomes real in the United States Senate. Senate leadership revolts don't start with dramatic speeches on the floor. They don't start with press conferences or cable news exclusives. They start with procedural resistance, quiet, technical, and often invisible to the public. If a president wants something done fast, the Senate has a dozen ways to slow it down. Refuse to schedule votes, refuse unanimous consent requests, demand extended debate time, insist on amendments that change the bill's substance, withhold committee cooperation, let the math fail quietly without a dramatic showdown. Most Senate power isn't visible. It's structural. It's about what doesn't happen, not what does. And here's the most important part. Leadership power is often less about ideology and more about a simple calculation. Votes plus donors plus survival. If senators believe a president's demand will cost them seats in the next election, trigger donor panic, or create constitutional exposure that could follow them for years, then resistance becomes rational. It's not about loyalty or disloyalty in some abstract sense. It's about liability. Here's the contrast that matters. The public thinks these fights are about loyalty. Inside Washington, they're almost always about liability. Senators don't ask, am I being faithful to the president? They ask, will this vote hurt me in my primary? Will it hurt me in the general? Will it become an attack ad? Will donors call? Will I have to explain this for the next decade? That calculation is what actually moves votes. And understanding that brings us to the next question. Who benefits from making this story go viral? And who benefits from slowing it down until the record is clear? There are 3 incentive engines that drive stories like this. If you understand these engines, you'll understand why these stories spread the way they do. Engine 1, political leverage. Political. Leaks are strategic. If you want to force a vote, you leak momentum. You make it look like the outcome is inevitable. So holdouts feel pressure to join the winning side. If you want to stop a vote, you leak risk. You make it look like the action is too dangerous, too costly, too exposed. Every leak serves someone's interest. The question is whose? Engine 2, media economics. A slow procedural story doesn't trend. Senators continue negotiations doesn't get shared. But revolt, collapse, open war, that trends instantly. Media outlets, influencers, and algorithms all reward dramatic framing. That doesn't mean the framing is accurate. It means it's profitable. Engine 3, internal party survival. Senators fear primaries, yes, but they fear losing the general election even more. And if a party brand becomes associated with chaos, dysfunction, and constitutional crisis, every senator in a competitive state becomes a target. Survival sometimes means distancing, even from a president of your own party. So when you hear a dramatic claim, leadership is abandoning him, your next thought should be, is this a real break backed by documents and public statements? Or is this pressure theater designed to shape behavior before any formal action occurs? Because even if the claim is unproven, the impact is already real. Whether the revolt is formal or still forming, stories like this do immediate damage in 3 places. Public trust. People don't just lose trust in politicians. They lose trust in the idea that the system is knowable, that you can find out what's really happening if you look hard enough. When every claim is contested, when verification is impossible, When everyone lies becomes the default assumption, democratic accountability becomes impossible. Governance. If leadership is signaling resistance, even through leaks and rumors, every negotiation slows down. Every vote becomes harder. Every emergency claim becomes contested. The system's ability to function depends on some baseline level of coordination. Chaos narratives undermine that coordination, whether the narratives are true or not. Institutional credibility. If this becomes a documented split, it tells the world something important. The United States government is fighting itself in public. Again. For allies, that raises questions about reliability. For adversaries, it creates opportunities. And that's precisely why verification matters. Repeated claims harden into belief. Belief becomes political reality, and political reality reshapes what's possible, even if the original claim was sloppy, exaggerated, or strategically planted. Now comes the part viewers actually care about: what happens next, and what would prove it. Scenario A: the claim collapses under verification. What would confirm this? A lack of any signed letter. No public confirmations from named senators. Major outlets walking back the story or reporting that leadership is explicitly not moving against the administration. What does it mean? A viral moment burns out. But the damage remains because millions saw the claim and only thousands will see the correction. The asymmetry between virality and correction is one of the defining problems of modern information. Scenario B: the slow revolt. This is the most common outcome. What would confirm this? Mixed signals. A few senators go public with concerns. Leadership uses careful, hedged language. Procedural steps quietly block or delay action without dramatic announcements. Nothing fully resolves. What does it mean? The story cycles for weeks. Everyone claims victory. The split becomes background radiation, always present, never fully clarified. And the public is left uncertain about what actually happened. Scenario C: the formal rupture. What would confirm this? A signed public letter with enough names to matter. A formal Senate procedural move. Leadership press statements explicitly opposing the administration. Documented action. An actual vote block, a bill limitation, or a coalition large enough to withstand political retaliation. What does it mean? This stops being content. It becomes history. And it requires a completely different kind of analysis. Not, is this real, but what happens now? Here's the watch list. The exact things you should track before you believe anybody. If you want to stay ahead of the hype, use this checklist every time a story like this breaks. Original document. Is there a letter, bill text, or official release you can read yourself? Named confirmations. Are there senator statements you can quote with names attached? Legislative record. What's scheduled on congress.gov? What's filed? What's delayed? Top-tier reporting. Are credible outlets citing documents or named officials, not just anonymous sources? Corrections. If a claim was wrong, who fixes it? Outlets that correct errors are more reliable than outlets that memory hole mistakes. And here's our policy. If the record changes, we update. If we make an error, we correct it publicly. Because the only thing worth going viral is the truth. Subscribe for verified breakdowns. Fast, clear, and grounded in sources you can check yourself.